Okay, friends, it's time for our Robert Munch story of the day today. So far we've read 50 Below Zero and Mortem, two excellent Robert Munch stories. So, as I've said before, we're doing an author study and we're looking at Robert Munch from a couple of different aspects. Number one, I like his stories because they're funny, and I know that from reading some of your writing, you like funny stories too, lots of you do. I also like Robert Munch because he uses children as characters, and also I like the illustrations and how they support the book. So far we've read Mortimer and 50 Below Zero. Michael Marchenko is the illustrator on both of those, the person who does the pictures. The author, Robert Munch, is the one we're studying. Well, we're going to look at a different book today called Mud Puddle, and there's a different illustrator here. This time it's Sammy Somalayan. So a different illustrator, and you can tell a little bit of the difference in styles between these illustrators. We won't get too deep into that, but they definitely have different styles. Right, chicken? That's right. All right. Mud Puddle. This is a good story. I like it. It's good and funny. Typical Robert Munch. Kind of silly. Julian's mother bought her clean new clothes. Julian put on a clean new shirt and buttoned it up the front. She put on clean new pants and buttoned them up the front. Then she walked outside and sat down under the apple tree. Unfortunately, hiding up in the apple tree there was a mud puddle. It saw Julian sitting there and it jumped right on her head. She got completely all over muddy. Even her ears were full of mud. Great picture there. Great illustration there. Nicely done. Shows the dog. Really good. Julian ran inside yelling, "Mommy, Mommy, a mud puddle jumped on me." Her mother picked her up, took off all her clothes and dropped her into a tub of water. She scrubbed Julian till she was red all over. She washed out her ears. She washed out her eyes. She even washed out her mouth. Ugh. Julian put on a clean new shirt and buttoned it up the front. She put on clean new pants and buttoned them up the front. Then she looked out the back door. She couldn't see a mud puddle anywhere. So she walked outside and sat down in her sandbox. The sandbox was next to the house, and hiding up on top of the house, there was a mud puddle. That's good silliness from Robert Munch. The mud puddle's hiding on top of a house on a roof. It saw Julian sitting down there and it jumped right on her head. She got completely all over muddy. Even her nose was full of mud. Julian ran inside yelling, "Mommy, Mommy, a mud puddle jumped on me." Julian's mother picked her up, took off all her clothes and dropped her into a tub of water. She scrubbed Julian till she was red all over. She washed out her ears. She washed out her eyes. She washed out her mouth. She even washed out her nose. There's the mud puddle. That's great. I think Mom doesn't believe that the mud puddle was jumping on her. Julian put on a clean new shirt and buttoned it up the front. Then she put on a clean new pants and buttoned them up the front. She reached way back in the closet and got a big yellow raincoat. She had an idea. She put it on and walked outside. There was no mud puddle anywhere. So she yelled, "Hey, mud puddle!" Nothing happened. So she yelled even louder, "Hey, mud puddle!" Julian was standing in the sunshine in her raincoat, getting very hot. She pulled back her hood. Nothing happened. She took off her raincoat. Uh-oh, this is the uh-oh moment. We know what's going to happen next. There's Julian in the middle of her yard. As soon as she took off her coat, out from behind the doghouse, there came the mud puddle. It ran across the grass and jumped right on Julian's head. She doesn't seem to mind. She's smiling. She got completely all over muddy. Julian ran inside yelling, "Mommy, Mommy, a mud puddle jumped on me." Yeah, there she is. Her Her mother picked her up, took off all her clothes, and dropped her into a tub full of water. She scrubbed Julianne till she was red all over. She washed out her ears. She washed out her eyes. She washed out her mouth. She washed out her nose. She even washed out her belly button. Julianne put on a clean new shirt and buttoned it up the front. She put on clean new pants and buttoned them up the front. Then she sat beside the back door because she was afraid to go outside. Then she had an idea. She reached up to the sink and took a bar of smelly yellow soap. She gave it a smell. Yuck! She took another bar of smelly yellow soap and gave it a smell. She put the 2 smelly yellow soaps in her pockets. Then she ran out into the middle of the backyard and yelled, "Hey, Mud Puddle!" The mud puddle jumped over the fence and ran right towards her. Here it comes. See that? Julianne threw a bar of soap right in the mud puddle's middle. The mud puddle stopped. Julianne threw the other bar of soap right into the mud puddle. The mud puddle said, "Ah, look out!" It ran across the grass, jumped over the fence, and never came back. The end. Great story. Great solution to the problem there, too. The problem was the mud puddle kept jumping on Julianne's head. Not sure if Mom believed that or not, but the mud puddle kept jumping on her head, so she solved her own problem by getting a couple bars of soap and throwing it into the middle of the mud puddle to chase it away. Great story, one of my favorites. Again, along with 50 Below Zero and Mortimer. So now we've read 3 Robert Munch stories. So go ahead and open up the document and do the writing response that I have for you. And I hope